Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Drum Antics Society tasting. And this evening I'm going to do a tasting of Aberlour whiskies. I've got 5 samples from the Spirit Embassy. Uh, I've got the Aberlour 12-year-old at 40%, the 16-year-old at 40%, the 18-year-old at 43%. And then we've got the Aberlour Alba 56.6% and the Aberlour Abunadh batch 84 at 61.2%. So it's the Aberlour Abunadh Alba is the second from last there. So Aberlour was founded in 1879 near the Lower Stream, and it was founded by James Fleming. Back then, the Aberlour distillery was the most modern of its time. In 1898, there was a very unfortunate incident with a big fire that destroyed most of the building and most of the whisky on stock in the warehouses. But Aberlour managed to get through the crisis and rebuilt the distillery shortly afterwards. And it was a great chance for Aberlour because they rebuilt the distillery with the most modern of equipment. In 1973, the distillery increased production by expanding to 4 pot stills. S. Campbell and Sons Limited bought the distillery in 1945, and they were bought themselves by Pernod Ricard in 1975. So it's an active distillery with 2 wash stills at 21,000 litres and 2 spirit stills at 15,500 litres. And they've a yearly output of about 3.5 million litres, which puts them in the middle to upper section of the biggest whisky distilleries in Scotland. And Chivas Brothers want to expand and rebuild the distillery larger. And in the mid-2020, they received the permits for a new stillhouse, a tun room and a mash room. The whisky production comes from the Burn of Aberlour, which is a river flowing right past the distillery. And the water is also used as process water for cooling the alcoholic fumes. So it's got 4 pot stills in a double distillation process to produce its new make spirit. With the pear shape, the pot and conical neck have the classic design with no constriction or reflux balls in the neck, and the line arm facing downwards. So you would expect a very strong and intense distillery character. And so this leads into how fast Aberlour distills its spirits. The sweet and calm character of the usual Aberlour suggests that Aberlour uses a slow distillation process. The malting on the traditional malting floors was done until 1962, and today Aberlour purchases its mostly unpeated malt from the big malting plants in Scotland. And the most visited warehouse is warehouse number 1, where you can have a tasting at the end of the tour of the distillery. And the cask selection at Aberlour is a very careful mix between bourbon barrels and a big amount of sherry casks. And the whisky they produce, usually all sweet with sherry, not smoky and fruitier and spicy. And the most famous Aberlours are the 12, 18, the 16-year-old double cask, all of which we'll taste tonight, and the Aberlour Abunadh batches. And most of the whiskies are matured or finished in sherry or wine casks. So it's really a whisky for the sweeter connoisseur that loves to find differences between the dark, dried, and exotic fruitiness that you can find in all of the Aberlour drums. And it's a true Speyside whisky. And you'll find it in a lot of independent bottlings from bottlers like Signatory or Duncan Taylor. The new make has a sweet nose with a black currant leaf, some heavy florals, malt, and with water some hessian. The palate is clean with citrus flesh, behind which you will find apple, and it has presence, and it's got a herbal finish. So we're going to start off with the Aberlour 12-year-old. So to clarify, not that it needs clarifying, the reference to this Aberlour 12-year-old at 40% being double cask matured referred to the fact that it's been matured in both ex-sherry and American oak casks, although it doesn't specify whether the American casks were ex-bourbon or whether they were virgin oak. It would be nice to know that, but it doesn't surprise me that it's not readily available, because let's face it, unless it's unlikely the target audience of this whisky would really care either way. And as with Balvenie's double cast, the whole double casting is really being posited as some kind of USP. The reality is that a lot of whiskies are made from a vatting of different cask types these days, but I guess it makes a whisky stand out in the supermarket shelf if it has the words double cask written on the bottle. Either way, the info is limited. There's also no mention of natural colour either. And at 40% ABV, it will most certainly have been chill filtered. So let's have a look at this one. And you do find that Aberlour tends to be quite a sticky, slower running whisky. It's got nice tide line, nice tears there. Nice copper colour, but it does have that suspicious orange glow we would anticipate seeing with caramel colouring being added. And on the nose, it has a classic Aberlour fruitiness with cherries and other stone fruits. Touches of varnish and kirsch and marzipan and a few amaretti biscuits. And some panettone shows up too. A hint of Mirabelle eau de vie. It's soft and it takes a while to really get much from it. It's perfectly pleasant. I get toffee, vanilla ice cream, toffee sauce, marzipan, and wedding or Christmas cake icing. It's generic, but there's nothing off-putting here. I'll try them out. And on the mouth it's drier, rather more on the woody side, with notes of tobacco, dark chocolate, and bitter orange. There's a handful of raisins popping up as well. But it is noticeably drier, but still pleasant. Although the tears would have suggested some viscosity, and viscosity is something that's important. But this does feel in the mouth that it could do with a bit more body. There's something thin about it. And granted, I'm used to drinking higher ABV whiskies that haven't been chill filtered. But even so, this does feel a touch watery. I do get a bit of vanilla, red apple, some ice cream soda, and a touch of black pepper. In terms of the sherry notes, I get some Christmas cake, some nuts, and some very milky coffee. It's fairly basic though. As you'd expect, this isn't what you would call a complex whiskey. And the finish is not that short. It's okay, still carrying tobacco and chocolate, plus a faint leathery touch, and there's some walnuts in the aftertaste. I'm going to add 2 mils of water to this. I've got my tin of Larkfire Wild Water for whiskey here from the Isle of Harris, I think. Yep, Isle of Lewis actually. And as you'd rather expect from this, there's no real asymmetry going on. And it's nice. The nose is nice, quite malty cakes, raisins, raisin roll, brioche, panettone, perhaps a pecan pie almond cake, and that touch of Mirabelle eau de vie, and perhaps a little mead there as well. What's the mouth like? Oh, more raisins, sweet wines, tarts, Mirabelle eau de vie again, Earl Grey, touch of cognac perhaps. So it's all gentle, good, and commercial, but in a good way. And the finish is medium, with oranges beside the raisins. So I've kept some to make a comparison. I'll do the 12, 16 and 18 as a comparison at the end of them. So I'm going to cleanse my palate tonight with some real quinoa, chips, smooth sour cream and chopped chive flavour, gluten-free, plant-based snack. So I would say with the 12-year-old, is it a well put together whiskey? It does lack a bit in character. But at the same time, it's quite dialed in. There's nothing incongruous or unbalanced about it. And the symmetry between the sherry cask influence and the American oak cask is spot on. If they are using virgin oak as opposed to ex-bourbon, then they've got the balance right. As I've found that virgin oak can lead to whiskey tasting a bit over oak and overly spicy. That certainly isn't the case here. So it's a well executed whiskey, if a little over engineered. I think, as is often the case, its limitations are down to the presentation. It's really the mouthfeel or lack of it that stops me wanting to have more of this whiskey. One of the benefits of sherry cask maturation is that it often imparts a nice viscous texture. Here, though, that isn't the case, and that's likely down to the fact that it's been chill filtered and diluted. I think it would make a great introduction to sherry cask maturation for a beginner, but as an enthusiast, it's one that you'll probably want to pass on. So we'll try the 16-year-old now. And there's very little difference in the colour between these two whiskies. They're virtually identical. So the 16-year-old is matured in a combination of sherry butts and first fill bourbon casks. And interestingly, Jim Murray scored this 94.5 out of 100 in his 2015 Whiskey Bible, describing it as a malt of unbridled magnificence. 40% ABV, let's see. And the tears are rather thinner than they were on the 12-year-old. And it's more floral and scented than the 12-year-old. You get a sort of sweet raisin aromas with a spicy nuttiness. And there is a touch of the cherry bomb fruitcake, full of raisins and apricots and plums, cloves, oak, and smoke almost certainly from the cask. Cigar paper and spent matches, so a bit of sulphur there. And we get the cherry, the sweet apples, pear, oranges, lemons, rosewater, confectionery, slight caramel. It's fruity and sweet, classic Aberlour, caramel, honey, milk chocolate, orange zest. It's a bit ripe. I'll try the mouth. And it's smooth and full of sweet, floral and spicy flavours and notes of plum and gentle oak. It's got a creamier mouthfeel and it's sweet with dark fruit, plums, raisins, oak, pepper, cinnamon and clove, dried fruits, apple, vanilla, oak, some spices, spicy milk, chocolate, nut, tart, and some cinnamon. And the finish is long, warm, spicy fruitiness, quite dry with a little pepper, sherry and oak, warming, sweeter, a little watery, sweet, turning into slightly spicier and a nuttiness. I add 2 mils of water to this, the lark fire. Now there is a little more of a symmetry this time. Not a huge amount, but there is some more than there was in the 12-year-old. And there's some nice red fruits. Raisins, no alcohol punching out whatsoever. Apples, nuts, and a little oak. And there's very little punch at first. Then it's smooth red fruits, raisins, some orange and honey. It's a gentle whiskey, round, chilled, supple cotton candy and caramel candies. And on the finish, still the red fruits and raisins remain with some honey, smooth, middle to long finish. So a kind of a paradigm. So the 16-year-old is a sort of sherry bomb with an oaky edge and drinks a tad hot to me. Water tamps down some of those edges, but it's got a slightly sulphury note. And the finish degrades when you add water. And I think that sulphury spent matches note is something I've gotten in nearly every Aberlour I've tasted. Outside of that, it has a nice mouthfeel. So if you're a fan of Aberlour, this probably won't disappoint. And if, like me, you're just not a fan of Aberlour, this probably won't be the dram to change your mind. So we'll move on to the 18-year-old. And this one is an Integrity whiskey. It's 43%. So not quite high enough ABV for me, but it's been resurrected as the Aberlour 18-year-old double sherry cask finish. And it also comes in small batches. The ABV of 43% is quite low, but on the other hand, it seems to be uncoloured and unchill filtered. And it's darker than the 16-year-old. This is the 18, this is the 16. And it's got nice tears, nice tagline. And it starts with some caramel. and some toffee, and it jumps to Nutella, and then it swims towards maple syrup and molasses honey, and that goes into sultanas and dried figs. And then you get a sort of touch of orange squash or even Fanta. And you then get roasted and honeyed peanuts and pecans and Ovaltine. It's an ultra classic, very reassuring nose. Modern sherry seasoning. Try them out. That's very good for sugar. It's nuttier than any of its neighbours, a tad grittier as well. So walnut skins. And then you get honey, rum agricole, toffee, marmalade, and maple syrup. It's still a bit cognac infused with a slightly oily edge. And the finish is medium to short, more on dried fruits and milk chocolate, more honey glazed roasted peanuts and Cointreau. I'll add 2 mils to this. Now we do have quite a bit of symmetry going on here. Juicy rum-soaked raisins with cherries, berries, and fresh plums. And it has a nice sourness and orange peels. And the fruitiness and vibrancy again hint towards cognac. And then slightly darker aromas emerge in the background. Think chocolate and toffee. And vanilla stands out too. Hints of tobacco and mint. It's very clean, fresh, and bright. I'd say on the nose, this is pretty faultless. Yeah, superb nose. And on the mouth, vanilla and stewed berries, as well as raisins, plums, blood oranges, and grapes. It's pretty rich considering the modest ABV. And then you get hazelnuts, almonds, and chocolate coming out. A bit of polished wood, drops of coffee, and mild allspice. It's quite lively again. And the finish is medium with berries as well as a fresh citrus notes, almond and cocoa. I'll cleanse my palate with this one as well. These quinoa chips are very nice. So the 18-year-old is a great drop. A bright and fruity Aberlour that reminds me of the best of the modern Tamdhu expressions. It's a perfect designer whisky. And of these three, let's see. Yeah, that's a 12. '16 they both seem a little more engineered. I'd say the 18 by quite some way. 16 is not bad. 12 not really in my Hall of Fame of whiskies. But I'd say the 16 is okay. It's probably in the lower rungs. And the 18, I think, is not at the top, but it's the second tier, I would say. And I think the price of the 18, to check it out, is quite reasonable, depending on your country. I think the 46 ABV would work better rather than the actual 43%. That's my thoughts. So, just another quick cleanse of colour. So we've got two Aberlour Abunadhs now. We have the Aberlour Abunadh Alba batch 10 at 56.6%, and the Aberlour Abunadh batch 84 at 61.2%. So the Aberlour Abunadh Alba batch 10 is a cask strength single malt, matured in first fill American oak ex-bourbon barrels, and bottled at 56.6% ABV without chill filtration or other colour. And you can see that straight away from the colour here. This is all natural colour. So it's designed to deliver an uncompromised full flavoured expression to capture the distillery's traditional approach to whisky making. At least that's what they say. Nice tears on this one, lovely clingy tears. And there's plenty of alcohol when your nose it need. Oh, definitely, you need water in this one. But I do find some honey notes. malt, almost like doughy bread, sprinkled with zest and spice. Yellow orchard fruits. There's a hint of cypress and a sort of distant confectionery note there as well. It's fruity. It's like graininess. Orchard fruits. Juicy peaches and green apples. Pears and honey. Vanilla and a sort of buttery biscuit. Caramel and a sort of caramelized wood. Brown sugar and creme brulee. Pears, mango and melon with honey. A bit of lemon and white chocolate. That brown sugar again. Try them out. It's fruity, distinctly honeyed. Green apples, juicy peaches and pears, apricots, and a touch of vanilla as well. It's got a beautiful creamy and smoothness to it. Big, luscious French, soft vanilla, Madagascan vanilla, and notes of fresh lemon, mango, pears. And you get dry wood at the end there, ginger and white pepper. Fresh fruits, honey and an oak spice. And that then develops into heavy tannins in the development. I suspect water is a must here. And it's got a long finish. Honey vanilla. It's slightly too sharp and spicy. Peppery lemon and sun-dried wood. It's frank and punctuated with fleshy fruits. I'm going to add 2 mils of water to this. And there's a wonderful basymmetry. Cast strength whiskey. Non-chill filtered, natural colour. And the alcohol nip from undiluted dies down. Now you get a sort of malty yellow apples and pears and some confectionery honey and gingery oak spice. And the palate improves significantly with water. There's still plenty of oak spice, but nowhere near as assaulting as when tried neat. You get that yellow orchard fruit notes and the honey leaning into the confectionery side. The finish now is shortened. It was long without water, it's shorter now. And you get that oak spice dominating. Cleanse my palate here. So, this is a good whiskey, distinctly fruity with sweet honey vanilla notes, but it's slightly too sharp and aggressive. It would be the perfect whiskey to demonstrate the influence of bourbon cask on maturation, as well as what a whiskey delivered at cask strength is all about. So, we're going to go for the Abunadh Batch 84, 61.2%. So, Aberlour Abunadh is an ever popular single malt, and each batch is matured entirely in Spanish Oloroso sherry butts. So that should bestow huge helpings of dried fruit and festive spice notes to whiskey. And it's full cask strength, natural colour, and no chill filtration, no age statement. Nice tears. %61.2%. Zesty notes of chocolate coated orange, sticky ginger loaf, and sherried fruits. It's got a dense, rich smell of dried dark fruits, berries, dates, figs, sweet. It's dense, candied fruit, and you get the honey from plaster, that sort of beeswax tone to it. And you need to leave it to sit in the glass for a while because the alcohol vapour takes over. Well, wish me luck, this is 61.2%. Yeah. Plump sultanas, prunes, cakey spice and marmalade, with biscuity malt and toffee apples and toe. It's quite intense flavour with sweet sherry, honey dark chocolate, dried fruits, dates, figs and raisins. And it's rich and full. It's a sherry bomb. And it's very much in the profile. Oak wood mixed with dry fruits, red fruits and dried figs. And the finish is sweet spices and rich oak, so gentle oak, dark chocolate. It's lovely. Carries hints of a honey sweetness and some spice. I'm going to add 2 mils of water to this. wonderful symmetry in this. Got rich dark berries, molasses, and dark caramel. Some lovely nose when you add a couple of drops of water to this. Raisins, fig, honey, and it did never have the alcohol burn, although it's 60 plus ABV. But adding a little drop of water opens up the flavour with sweet honey, dark chocolate, dried dates, figs, and raisins. And with water finish is medium to long, leaving a honey drenched sultanas. I'll just cleanse my palate here. So, the Aberlour Abunadh Batch 84 at 61.2% ABV is a sherry bomb. I'll leave it to here for a bit, but it is like Christmas cake in a glass, a classic sherry bomb whiskey. And I think overall, looking at Aberdeen, the colour range is under strength and the integrity is questionable because of the chill filtration and colouring. The 18 stands out, but it should be up at 46% ABV. The Abunadhs are both better, I think. Although I'd say the 18 and the Abunadh Batch 84 are probably on a par. Of the two Abunadhs, the full sherry matured is a standout for me. Thank you for listening.